Good morning, good day, and good evening. I am, as always, your host, Brody Robertson. Welcome back to the show. Today, any of the video watchers, you probably noticed there is no layout. There's a good reason for that. Things changed like last minute. It's fine. If it really bothers you, just go listen to the audio version. It'll be exactly the same. So today we've got some local local South Australian indie game devs. There we go. We're not going to restart that. Anyone who's seen this before knows that if I try to think of anything on the fly, it's just going to fall apart. So, welcome to the show, Daytime Devs. How about you all just introduce yourselves one by one? We'll start with Luke, I guess.
G'day, I'm Luke. I'm a programmer for Daytime Devs, and we've been working on it for like 2 years or so. Nice to meet you, Brody.
Nice to meet you too. We'll go Holy Diver next. Go. Oh no, I changed my layout. Okay, just go. Yes.
Yes. Hi, I'm Holy Diver or Scott. And I am, I guess, the lead graphical designer and or 3D person on the team.
Okay. And last one.
Yep. Howdy, I'm Alex. Also Node Reaver on Discord and that. And I'm also a programmer who's working on Super Bawk Bawk Chicken as part of Daytime Devs.
I think you were the first one who actually mentioned the name of the project.
Oh, how about that?
Well,
You're
yeah.
also Wesley.
Yes,
I've got the game on the screen right now. So, how about you guys just briefly, one of you pick to briefly explain like what this game is?
Alex?
Yeah, sure. Super Bawk
This'll
Bawk
be
Chicken
fun.
is an infinite runner, but it's a little bit different to normal because most infinite runners have lanes, and Super Bawk Bawk Chicken doesn't have lanes. But also, we've really lent into the quirky and kind of wacky vibe with Super Bawk Bawk Chicken. One of the things we really tried to do with it as well is make sure that people of any age and any skill level could play. So you can crank the speed down all the way to slow and have like a really beginner experience, or you can crank the chili meter all the way up to red and play like a real gamer.
Yeah, from my experience playing at AVCON, playing on full speed is a little bit much. I think the demo I think I'm looking at here, I think this is like the default speed maybe. It's the latest one you had on the channel. So I'm not really sure what speed it's at, but I think this is around about the default speed. But when I was playing at like, do you have a video showing the top speed or not? It might be in like one of the like long streams or something.
We might be able to send you one if you need it.
Yeah.
So
we're gonna release the video soon that has the higher game speed in it. We just didn't want to scare people away.
That's totally fair. That is totally fair. Because I was saying, when I played it at AVCON, it was. I feel like the top speed. I don't know. I feel like some of the game kind of it falls apart a little bit at the top, like the very, very top speed. Like it's a little bit too touchy to move around. I'm not really sure what you could do to address that, but someone who was there was saying play like 2 or 3 down from the top, and then it's a lot more reasonable to actually control. And from my experience, that was a lot better to play. Like it was. I feel like the default speed is way too slow for me, but at that point you can.
Yeah.
It feels fun at that point for me.
Yeah, the default speed is like fairly like aimed at casual gamers, and so if you have more experience with gaming, you're probably going to want to crank it up a bit. And I agree, like the very tippity top speed on the chili level is kind of nutty. Like if you're able to play at that speed, that's fine. Like good on you, you're some superhuman. But the reaction times, like you have to have like really fast reaction times to deal with some of the stuff that exists in the world. But like I find the sweet spot to be that 1.8 times speed, I think, which is two levels above the default. So
I would say that's completely like personal opinion because that's someone who plays on the top speed, being quite a few high scores as Big B. Definitely achievable. Just takes time. But one thing we should note when we talk about speed is it's only the starting speed that gets changed.
Okay.
Because basically the speed continually increases over time.
Right.
And you're just setting your start speed so that when the slower speed would have reached up to your speed, you'll then start increasing.
Right, so if you do survive long enough, you'll eventually be at the top speed anyway.
Exactly.
Yep.
And that way we can have everyone on the same high scores. We didn't have this until like one patch into the release of the demo. But we wanted to change that so everyone could be on the same high score. So no matter what speed you play at, you're versing everyone.
So is that the top speed that you set, is that like the actual top speed? Or if you start at that, does it get faster over time?
Oh, it still goes. Like the game will just keep increasing until it gets to a point where you just can't keep up.
I didn't survive long enough on the top speed to notice that.
It's kind of based on like Tetris, where the game just continually gets faster until you can't keep up. Otherwise, you'll be able to play on the cylinder forever.
And the chili at the end tells you like how far you went compared to what your setting was, so that way you can adjust on the fly as you need.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Because when when you're playing at a con, you already have everything set up, so it's like, and you're jumping into a game with like already all the powers already unlocked as well. So it's a lot of games. You've two options when showing off a game. You have the option of starting people off at the start, which is what some of the others were doing. They're like I believe Dark Web Stream was like that. I don't know if you got a chance to play that while you were there.
No, I didn't.
And there's a couple of others, but you have the other option of doing what you guys did, where you just throw everything at the player, which can be kind of overwhelming, but it does give you the ability to sort of show what the game is really all about.
Yeah. I think it works particularly well with Bawk Bawk or Super Bawk Bawk Chicken, because it's not as in depth as some of the other games like that were on show, like strategy games, or games that have a lot, like they're very heavy and you got a large learning curve to like reach the max potential or whatever. Right. But with Bawk Bawk, you can kind of like, even when you've been given everything, you can kind of just jump in and experience around and go, oh, okay, I've got the gist. But yeah.
Well, yeah, even like how many buttons are there? It's like you got to move, you got to press the jump button, and then there's the balk. And that's am I missing one? Is that it?
I think that might be it.
We purposely tried to lower the buttons because we were originally thinking our best audience might be phone. Okay. So we didn't want to like have too many buttons for a phone screen.
Right. It does have like a very... It's clear that mobile was sort of part of the design with how you look. Like if you look at the UI, like you've got the balk button, the dash button down the bottom. You've got the like the pause in the top corner. Like you don't need those to be there if you're playing on a controller, but it's clear that you guys were obviously intending to eventually get onto mobile. Before we get into all of that stuff, though, let's just sort of a bit of a background on all of you. So. Why don't you pick who you want to start to say, like, what you were doing, and sort of if you've had any experience with this beforehand, or you're learning everything from the start, or like, what experience do you guys have at all?
Alex, you can start, I reckon. We go in age order.
Okay. Sure. So in terms of Bawk Bawk Chicken, we'd already sort of mucked around with making a couple of games in Unity before, but we never launched them. If you want to go back in time a little bit, back in high school, we were making games, even primary school.
Oh, wow.
Especially Luke on that one. But around high school age, we had this rule in our house where we weren't allowed to play video games on weeknights. It was our parents trying to get us to do homework. But I found that if I did all my homework and then I made games, I was able to play them.
Right.
So I downloaded GameMaker and then downloaded other people's projects and just played them in GameMaker, pretending that I was doing work. And my parents, they loved it. Then I realized that it was actually fun making games too, and I sort of mucked around in GameMaker a couple of times. I ended up making this game called Turret Tactics, which I think Scott's year level at our high school, everyone had it on a USB, and they were playing it all through IT class and everything. Fast forward a couple of years, we tried Unity, and we had that experience there from just self-taught basically. Yep.
Awesome.
In terms of my background for this, for Super Bawk Bawk Chicken, I don't really have anything in terms of making, like, previously when Alex was saying that we had worked on like Game Maker and stuff like that, I had done a couple of sprites here and there, but that was like just very simple stuff like painting, 2D painting type stuff, like and all pixel graphics kind of style. And so I later on I was always interested in like 3D software and that kind of opportunities that you can do with that. So I kind of got into learning Blender a couple of years ago, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago now. And then kind of that just, I got good at doing that. And then I was like, oh, how can I make this into a game, like game ready products that I could maybe sell? And then these guys were talking about making a game that's like all 3 of us. And I was like, well, I'll just do it for that then. But yeah, that's kind of my background.
Alex, you missed out that you have a computer science degree.
Oh yeah, I have that too.
And you work in web development.
Oh, you actually have a job?
Yeah, I'm a developer as my day job.
Oh, nice.
Thank you for pointing that out, Luke. But yeah, it's a different skill set to games. Like I know programming, but programming for games is different.
But you feel the senior role quite well.
I do code reviews. This is bad. This is bad.
So you're using your degree for something useful. I've got a software engineering honors, and I make YouTube videos.
Hey, whatever works.
Well, I've got a science degree, and then majoring in genetics and
oh, you're way off.
Yeah, and then now I'm making games. So
how did you sort of get that? Wanted like get involved with that then?
So I've always been making games since primary school. I made like little games in Flash, and then made in a high school a Christmas game. Actually, we've always been making like quizzes and stuff at Christmas for each other. We call it Quizmas, so we just give quizzes to each other, and sometimes that's in the form of a game. And then I got a job in the Army Reserves, and then finished my science degree. Wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with it. Just got an IT job, and then realized I do not want to be in an IT job because everyone just complains at you that things are broken. So then I was like, well, let's have a crack at actually making a game for production. And Alex said, like, the way Super Bawk Bawk came to be is that we were making one of the games I had made in primary school called Hot Potato, where it was just like a platformer that goes up.
Okay.
And there's a lava at the bottom, and if you fall and hit the lava, you turn into a potato, and someone else can pick you up, and then you've got to like keep them alive.
Oh, that's actually really cool.
Point. Yeah, and they like explode on you, and you're like, no. But we were gonna try and do that in Unity, and I had never done any like 2D in Unity, so I was like, oh, we'll just make it 3D, because originally it was in Game Maker. And then we were like, how do we do, because it had warping, like Pac-Man warping on the side. I'm like, how do we do that in 3D, like in multiplayer? And then we just were like, well, why don't we just make it a cylinder that goes up? So we had that's how we got the cylinder that goes up. But then one weekend I wanted to make a game because I just jumped from project to project. I want to make a game for my partner. So I just made the cylinder and chucked it on its side. And that's how we got the cylinder that goes forwards.
Okay.
And then chucked a chicken in, and then it was Super Bawk Bawk Chicken because Bawk Bowls are awesome, like Dragon Ball Z-ish, or maybe. And then we played a little bit, and then Alex stuck to it, and then I came back to it because it was getting there, and we're like, well, we'll make this one our first release because it was small in scope. Compared to all my other projects that were just,
Correct use of was there because it was small.
Yeah, it was.
I think that's the problem that a lot of people take on with, especially like their first project. It's like, I want to do this, and I want to do this, and I want to do this, and it's just like the scope list keeps growing and growing, and like.
Yeah.
Obviously, you guys can keep adding like more power-ups and different levels and things like that, but you've got a very clear concept about what you're trying to make the game be. And I think that's what really helps. Like okay, we want to make an infinite runner. Yeah, that's like you got your very clear guideline of this is going to be an infinite runner.
Yeah, infinite runner.
It's interesting you
needs to
say that
be.
because we did have one of the problems with our items when we first made the item system, which hasn't been brought up yet, but you can switch items, like there's 3 slots on your chicken.
Mhm.
So that's where
So it's your gear
like
slot, basically.
there's heaps of infinite runners on the phone, but they're all like people made them for like $5 or whatever,
Right.
and they or
Well, yeah,
apart
everyone's
from
played
the
something
good
like Temple
ones,
Run.
like Temple
Yeah.
Run, or they're like the good ones. But with this item system, it lets you customize your play a little bit because, and they all interact with each other, which is a bit more like D&D-ish, or like, oh no, what is it, like
RPG-ish.
RPG-ish, yeah.
Yeah,
And so there's a
usually
lot of
the
hidden complexity there, but although it was just way out, it just did not tie in at all. So then we had to figure out how to make it tie in. And we made Rascal appear, and that's how we started getting these characters like Rascal and Wesley. And then we made it also tie in with your cosmetics as well, because people like customizing and looking pretty. So
Before you go
we were
too
like,
far
we can
there,
put it all together.
explain Rascal and Wesley. I don't think I showed that on the video yet.
I'll let Scott and Alex, since they are
Okay, go
Rascal
ahead,
and
yeah.
Wesley.
all right.
Wesley first. With
That's
that
you.
speed.
That's you.
I've got the names confused.
Yeah.
Wesley is Weasel,
Mhm.
and well, actually a stepped polecat, which is like a type of weasel, I believe.
Sure. Okay.
But Wesley's the shopkeeper,
Mhm.
and Wesley is the one that you buy items from. But in order to get the items, you need to unlock them by catching the rascal.
Oh,
And-
okay.
Yeah.
Because that part,
Oh.
obviously, you guys didn't show off at AVCON because you just had everything just there.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's how that worked.
So we had all the items unlocked at AVCON just to give people the chance to, if they wanted to go change items, they could experience that.
Right.
But technically, Rascal, who I'm the voice of, they've stolen all the items from the shopkeeper, Wesley. And the only way you can restock the shop to be able to purchase these items is by catching the rascal. And you kind of go on this like little chase. That's another thing that's really different, because a lot of the time with endless runners, there's something chasing you. But this time we've kind of added something where you chase and you're doing the chasing. But basically you just have to catch the rascal, and once you have, the item will be restocked in the shop for you to purchase from Wesley. Yeah.
What's the currency you use in the game? Is that the eggs you collect, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's no in-game purchases for eggs or items, and we don't plan to. We just want to, you buy the game, you get it all, and that will be the same for phone. The one in-app purchase will be to unlock from demo game. Because,
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
We aren't a huge fan of like the current system with everyone's like spamming microtransactions at players, and like as much as some people enjoy spending money on microtransactions to try and get a leg up, but like
They definitely do. Yes.
Yes, yeah. Often, they're not just for leg ups; they're just for visual stuff. But like, you can get all the visual stuff in the game, no worries. You just got to play a little bit. That's all it is. But you're not getting, no ads, nothing like that. It's just you pay for the game and you get the whole game.
Because we
That's
were
it.
concerned with like our audience, although we've got maybe some hardcore high score seekers, we might also, like, a lot of kids really liked it at AVCON. One kid just kept coming back, like every hour he brought his dad, and we just ended up being, having a chat with him. But yeah, that's why we didn't want any microtransactions, because we've heard those stories where a kid's downloaded an app and then purchased like $1,000 million.
Well, the problem, like the real problem with microtransactions is when there is an infinite ceiling. Like if you play, I don't know if any of you guys have played like Genshin Impact or something like that, or any of these gacha games that are out there where there is no limit to how much you can spend. Like it's one thing if there is a game that has like a cosmetic shop and you can buy everything in the cosmetic shop, but that's the end. When there is no limit and you can just keep spending and spending and spending, that's where it becomes a like really serious problem.
Yeah.
Especially when that spending is like the more money you spend, the more power you get in the game.
Yeah, or it's linked to like a gambling type.
Yeah. Well, yeah, especially with like gacha stuff.
Yeah.
I've made it very clear before that I think that all of these gacha games should be like 18 plus. Like, doesn't matter. Like, if you're gonna have gambling in a game like this, it should be 18 plus.
That's fair.
Like, I know
Yeah,
some people
sure,
don't
yeah.
agree with that take, but we treat other gambling like this anyway, so might as well be consistent with it.
Mm.
But no, it is cool that you guys are just trying to make a game, but not fill it. Like I could understand like why you would want to fill it with microtransactions if like if a game, I don't know, it's really weird because like I can't fault someone for trying to make money off of a game. Like if you've put a lot of work into it, you are trying, like especially if that is something you're doing as like a full-time thing. Like I cannot fault someone for doing that, but I definitely can respect someone who's just, they're clear on, we don't want to have microtransactions in this, we just want to make a game and put it out there.
Yeah, that's pretty much the vibe we've got.
Mhm.
And yeah, you're right. Like in terms of business decisions or just in terms of making money from the effort that you've put into the game, it
Mhm.
makes financial sense to put these kind of microtransactions in because they're more attractive to get the game for free.
Yeah.
Get like all the functionality except not that powerful item that you have to pay money for. But yeah, we sort of wanted to go a little bit old school, but also, as everyone said already, try to avoid those overspending.
Yeah,
But that's
especially in the kids audience.
That's why we got
kind
the
of-
demo
Mhm.
as
Yeah.
our
Mhm.
like smooth, easy barrier to entry. The demo's free,
Mhm.
and you can just you don't have to pay for that, and then you can buy the game if you think you like it.
How much is contained within the demo?
8 levels,
8 levels? Okay.
which means you can unlock 8 items.
Mhm.
Then there is a trial level, and you get all the missions that you get in the full game.
Okay.
So that's the mission system. It's like daily missions, which we
Mhm.
haven't mentioned as well. But
Oh.
because we had the thoughts of it's going to be on mobile, and also we thought, what else can we do to make people want to play this game more? We put in daily missions, and you get eggs rewards, but you can also get cannon ticket rewards, which are we haven't explained the cannon either. The cannon is like a checkpoint system. It basically lets you catch up to the stars that you've collected, and the stars are like at certain points throughout the level.
Oh, is
So-
that what that was?
Yeah.
'Cause I noticed as I was progressing, like, I would have, like, a certain number of stars. I wasn't really sure what that exactly meant, but that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, like 3 yellow stars is your goal. That means you've completed the level as far as unlocking everything goes.
Right, that makes
However,
sense.
it's really it happens really early in the level, and if you're really good, you're going to get past that, and then there's not going to be anything more for you. So what we ended up doing, and this is because Luke got past it really easily, and he was like, I need something else to collect, guys. So we added 6 more stars after the yellow stars. We have red stars, and there's 3 of them, and they're further spread out than the yellow ones. And then there's purple stars, and they're even further along. I think the last purple star is around 12,000 score, which is like if you're there, you're already over the max speed chili you can get to. It's impressive. Like just getting to that is amazing. You've done really well if you can.
Thank you. As someone who's
Yeah,
purple
yeah.
starred the first 3 areas so far, and I'm gonna do them all.
Mhm.
The cannon only goes up to the red star because
Right.
we wanted, when you're setting high scores, we don't want it that, you just set the high score because you cannoned.
Mhm.
So pretty much
Right,
the
okay.
purple scars are going to be where the like top scores are at anyway. So
Yeah,
So sort of just
But
a
it does
convenience thing to just
sometimes.
ignore that early section if you're trying to go for those high scores.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right, right. 'Cause how long
Yeah.
does it take to get up to the purple section?
a while.
We do
Without
have a
cannon?
spreadsheet with the
Yeah, without
averages.
cannon.
Without cannon, probably like 12-ish minutes. I
Okay, yeah,
think.
yeah.
And
Something
I think it's
like
more
that?
like 7 with cannon. Something
7
like
with
that.
cannon, yeah, because it's still quite a far away from, because the max cannon you can get to is the 3rd red star,
Mhm.
and so you have to have made it there previously. But once you have made it there, you can transport there. But that's like at like 7,000 or 8,000 or something,
Mhm.
and then to get to 12, that's another 4,000 that you still got to travel at that higher speed.
Right.
So if you're consistently getting there, you'll be able to afford these cannon runs to like keep taking them, so that you don't have to experience the first start of the
Right,
game,
right.
where it can be a bit slowish to start. But yeah,
But
Right,
the
that
time it
makes
takes
sense.
also depends on your starting speed. If you start at the
Yeah.
highest speed or a couple under, you're going to get there faster than if you're on the slower speed.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
We did try to balance it so that at default speed you get 3 stars roughly at 3 minutes, so that it is that kind of like quick gameplay loop for when you have a short period of time. But if you're good, you're gonna be in the level for longer.
Oh, the demo, Alex. It also includes about 5 or 6 bonus levels, which
does.
and that's with those yellow stars. If you get all 3 yellow stars in all the levels in an area, you unlock the bonus levels, and they're just whacked levels. They're like trampoline world where you're just always jumping, or like giant
Waterworld?
ducklings and giant duck world. Yeah, and the giant ducklings obviously have trampolines on their back because that's fun. Yeah, so stuff like that.
Yeah.
So with the item system you mentioned before, like what sort of items? Actually, what was the first item you guys added to the game, and then how did that sort of progress from there?
Ooh, first item. That's a tough one.
Yeah, it's challenging our memories.
I definitely want to say that I definitely had a key part in the item system because I was like, I want to be able to change items. So, because we all love RPGs, but
but do we remember the first one we got?
The first item. That's really a tough one. I'm
I
gonna
thought that
say
would've been
it
an
was
easy
probably
one.
something.
Alex coded it. Alex coded it mostly, like the
Yeah.
item system initially. So you would know,
Yeah.
Alex.
But the thing is, at that point, we'd already done a brainstorm, and Scott, because he's so efficient, had already made like 10 of the models. I think the first one would have been backpack, and I think we
Yeah.
got backpack in around the same time as we got one of the hats. But I
Okay.
can't remember which hat.
So backpack
probably the
did
cap.
what?
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's boost invulnerability. So when you go through boosts, or you'll be invulnerable for longer.
Okay.
So yeah, like
Yeah, so you don't
basically
just boost it to a wall.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
We have some really cool items that we can talk about. For our mythic items, we thought since we're going wacky and crazy.
Oh, that's the other thing you hadn't mentioned. There's also the tiering of items as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's common, and so basically, what we might have not said is there's five areas for now, and we plan to add more. In those areas are those 8 levels. That's why when Alex was saying you get 8 levels, that's the 8 levels of the first area. So you just get the first area, which is Pleasant Pastures, and it's bonus. So what were we saying? Oh, yes, the first 6 levels give you common items, and then you get So first 5 give you common, then 2 rare, and then the last level gives you mythic. And not only that, it's harder to catch Rascal to get the mythic, and then and less hard for the rare, and then even less hard for common. So we kind of made common super easy, but if you struggle, that's okay, because we just tried to make it that people would run into him so that they understand it, because we didn't have it in our tutorial yet. And then with rare, it's a little bit harder. And then with Andy spawns after 2 stars instead of 1 star. And then at mythic, he spawns after 3 stars. And it's like a decent difficulty. Although I'll give you the dev secrets. If you catch when he pops up, if it's not over water, he'll make a little dirt boost. And if you get in his little dirt boost hole, you'll get the dirt boost pretty much straight to him, and then it's like halfway through the dirt boost you want to jump up, because you can decide when you jump out of it, and then you just dash, and or dash Bawk, and you'll get him, or Bawk dash. So
yeah.
Sorry,
strat.
Yeah. What were we talking about? I'm sorry.
So
item tiering this, yeah.
Item tiers. So I just looked it up because I was curious myself. The first item we got in was the bucket hat, and it is one of my favorite hats. Well, it was until it had the short-sighted property. If you haven't ever played with the bucket hat, what the bucket hat does is it puts a overlay on your screen so that you can't see where exactly you would be looking, so that you don't hit things. It's very annoying, but it gives you armor. So if you can navigate that situation because you're clever enough or skilled enough to do so, then when you do hit something, you survive. And the short-sightedness goes away, the bucket hat falls off, and you can continue your run. So it's pretty good. In terms of the tiers, so Luke mentioned already that there was a common, rare, and mythic. The rares look a bit cooler, in my opinion, sometimes. But they also have slightly stronger stats. The way we kind of did it was like the commons give you 1 stat, boost, whereas the rares can give you more than one.
Right.
But they might be a little bit less. But because they give you 2 and they're both more than what the commons give you, it's like a side grade so that the commons don't become useless.
Right.
But you can decide which one suits your playstyle better, or in some cases the level, because some levels you really want certain items, otherwise it's very tricky. But the mythics, we just said, what if the game was completely different? What if we just, like, for example, one of the mythics that's not released yet. So here's like a hot off the press, like, spoiler for future version. We're gonna add this mythic item called Flappy Bat Wings, and it's gonna turn Super Bawk Bawk Chicken into Flappy Bird. So instead of jumping and holding and gliding over those distances, you're gonna be like bouncing up and down like Flappy Bird.
Right.
So that kind of stuff. But some of the mythics we have, maybe the other guys want to talk about.
I want to talk about one of them, and then you can talk about the rest. I know which one Scott wants to talk about, but I want to talk about, because I played a bit of League of Legends, and there was an item called Heartsteel in that where you just get bigger and bigger and bigger. So
yeah,
we added that as an item. We added something that gives you 5 armor, but the more armor you have, and that's including the other items, the bigger you get. So you can end up going from a normal sized chicken to like a mammoth chicken. It's just giant. And it's just fun. You actually move slower as well, and you have to try and like dodge while you're so big. But even if you hit something, it's okay, because you lose your armor, and then eventually you get back down to your normal size. But like, it's just amazing just seeing this giant chicken on the screen.
Yeah, it's quite fun. I'm a big fan of first-person shooters in general. And so when these guys were talking about like adding a first-person aspect to the game, I was like, I'm all in. So
what are you talking about? You modeled the glasses first.
I did. Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure there was an idea there to do it. Otherwise I wouldn't have just done it. But yeah, so we got the classic Dr. Disrespect type style glasses, so you can wear those. Unfortunately, you won't see yourself only in the menu where you see yourself with them on, but once you're in the game, you go first person mode, and you basically we've currently updated it so that it's not quite out yet, but you kind of strafe, so you're always looking down the cylinder, and you can kind of strafe left or right, and basically it just puts you in the eyes of the chicken, and it's great. It's really awkward and wonderful.
I think it's really, like, we haven't fixed it yet, but when you go through a dirt boost, which puts you in the ground, all you can see is the middle of cylinder, like, which is just like awkward texture. So we may patch that in the future. And I was thinking, like we could have, like, how cars have a rear view mirror? We might have just a mirror up the top. So you might be in darkness, but then you'll be able to see what's up the top, because otherwise you're just going out blind. You have no idea where you're popping out.
Honestly, I'm surprised they didn't lead to some texture clipping. We just see through the cylinder.
You might.
Yeah, you probably will.
But the other thing is, you can't tell what you're landing on, because we haven't made it like tilt
they're
down.
all intended features.
Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you don't see your status bars or your HUD, some of your HUDs as well. So you're really flying blind. But if you like first-person shooters, then it's perfect.
If you're after a challenge, there's certainly a fun mode to do.
Alex, what about the head mythic?
The cat headphones.
Yeah, what's that do?
So we have cat headphones,
Uh-huh.
and they're really cute, but also like awesome. They turn your Borks into big love hearts, which are great. But as well as that, you can phase dash through objects. So Rascal, because we didn't want to worry about pathfinding around a cylinder, we got Rascal to just phase through things. So you can just walk straight through obstacles, but they turn purple. That was the initial reason why we did it, but now it's like tied in with the story, because we've thought about it a bit. But cat headphones give you that ability. So when you're dashing, instead of just a normal dash, which would normally you'd still hit things, you turn them purple and you go straight through them. However, for the bigger, like longer obstacles, like barns, for example, especially closed barns, if you dash through them and you don't make it all the way, you come out of phase dash and you're still in the barn and you end your run.
Oh, that's awesome. So the mythics, we'll talk about the mythics separately, but the rares and commons, like, what is the process you go through when you're trying to come up with new items?
We kind of think of items that would fit on a chicken. Because one of the
Okay.
challenges we have with the shoes, especially the shoes, is the
Right.
chicken's feet are really tiny, and also the feet are always pointed away from you in the run.
Uh-huh.
So we're like, what can we put on the shoes, on the feet, that you actually would notice
Well, you could...
as different?
Have any of you played Kingdom Hearts?
Well, ages ago, but it was like at a friend's house.
Do you
one
remember
time.
Sora's giant shoes?
Yeah.
Well, you could just give the chicken giant shoes.
Yeah, but then you get a lot of clipping happening.
That's fair.
Between
That's
either
fair.
the ground or its own body.
That's fair.
And-
Okay.
I mean, not saying that clipping doesn't happen in even AAA games, because it does. It's just how noticeable do you want that to be? And we're kind of aiming for a little less of that.
No, that's totally fair.
Yeah,
But
so
yeah, we do definitely make them a bit bigger.
Mm-mm.
The shoe size.
because otherwise you couldn't see them.
Right, right.
Also, it's got to be realistic, otherwise it doesn't get Scott's approval.
That's it.
So it's like we can think of something wild, and then it gets made more realistic in the process, which works.
Define realistic in this case. I'm looking at a chicken wearing a metal helmet with a ninja skull on its back. Define
Well-
realistic here.
What's not
Well-
realistic about that?
Yeah. Let's just go off the chicken before we even get to the items.
Okay,
Our chicken, we wanted a plump chicken,
right.
and so we got Scott
made
to
it.
model one,
Yeah.
and then it took us like 10 times to be like, Scott, I think it needs to be just a little bit more plumper, just a little bit, just like every time. It started like a normal size, and now it's actually decentish.
It's
Good.
unfortunate because the current view of the chicken being behind it and above it, it doesn't really show that plumpness off
Mhm.
very well. And so because of that, and the field of view and stuff, it doesn't look the way it does when I'm modeling it in Blender or whatever.
Mhm.
And so I kept making it bigger and bigger, and it just barely made a difference in the game. But like, that's all right. It doesn't need to be.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to like say
Yeah.
anything bad. I was just thought
You're
it was
right, you're right.
funny. It is funny,
Yeah.
like part of the process.
It's more just like making sure that like it matches the proportions of the chicken. Some
Right, right.
things work with the chicken head and or body. Some things really don't. Like clothing is very awkward because we've got the wings flapping around all the time. And I'm like, I'm still new to like this being the first game. I'm still new to like making things work with that kind of like
Right.
we on the rig on the chicken. You know what I mean? Like, so that's something I'm learning, and I definitely want to bring into a future project. But for the moment, we're trying to I'm trying to avoid adding those kind of things that are like skin suits or whatever, like
Right.
tight suits that like wrap around the body of the chicken, making it a little bit more awkward because you
With-
get a lot of clipping and stuff like that if you're not perfectly animating it or. But yeah.
With that being said, then, what was the hardest item to do the modeling attachment to the chicken?
Ooh. I think it has to be like one of the body items because although the body is awkward because we've got a bone on the back where you equip things, like a backpack will sit on the back quite nice, but as soon as you put like something else on that bone, it might not deform with the rest of the chicken as well.
Right.
But overall, I think so. Like one of the body ones was the chest plate. That was an interesting one because I had to worry about like having it big enough that it would fit the chicken, but not like clip too much.
Right. Right.
But overall, the shoe things for the foot bones have been the most annoying to model in general, or to like set up the bones and to get them working to bend and touch the cylinder and not clip through it and just but
that
yeah
makes sense.
Each has their own unique difficulties for me.
My
But,
extent
like,
of
at least-
dealing with 3D modeling is doing a donut tutorial. So
Oh yeah, classic.
Classic.
Yeah, yeah, that's where I started. So yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed that tutorial. It was good. But yeah, so a lot of mine was learning was more to do with 3D modeling for just renders, like fun, nice looking renders. But then learning to make it game ready and like unwrapping the textures or the UVs so that you can apply a texture to it and stuff like that. Like we don't have normal maps. We're not using any sort of normal maps at the moment, I don't think. There might be one or two. But that's just because that was new to me, and we will do that in another project because we got too far with this one to then start going back and adding that kind of stuff.
What about the world? Anything hard about that?
I really dislike the fact that it's quite a, like, if you think about it, it's like it is a cylinder, and
Right.
our world is round and sphere, so it makes sense. But because of the scale of the chicken to the cylinder, everything has to have that curve to it, and you have to really put it in. Otherwise, it doesn't work if you want to have like an even amount of things spread out along like for the barns, for example.
Right.
We started making them straight up, but then you'd have like these
Oh.
triangle wedges that are between the barns that you could just fly through. And so we had to like redo the barns to make them include that like cylindrical shape, because each one is like a wedge of or like an arc of a cylinder.
It didn't click with me that you had to do, like, it's really obvious with the walls. Like, the walls are obviously curved, but I didn't even notice the fact the barns were curved. That obviously they're curved. That sounds like a nightmare.
It was because like I was so happy with the barns as they looked initially that like I really didn't want to start from scratch and have to make a new whole barn. So I really like it was a little bit of back and forth trying to get it to work. But in the end it's mostly there. I think there's a little bit of a gap at the top, but nothing that you can like fly through or anything.
Right.
There's still a few objects that are just straight, like
there
fences,
are,
I think kind of work because they're short. But as soon as you get tall things or wide things, they have to start curving, and sometimes it can look weird. Like we had like clothesline, which I mean isn't too bad, but it's a bit weird that like we were like, does the line curve? Because that would be like, why would it be curving up? But the line goes straight, but the poles kind of like go out wide, like on that angle.
Yeah, it did make it a bit of a challenge. Yeah.
Well, I'm seeing right now you got these like concrete pipes that are just leaning up against like another one. It's in like one of the videos you put out. Like that part, like you don't have to do anything special for that. Like you can just have them sitting there because they're sort of near enough. Like they're not directly on the ground. Like there's a little bit that's touching the ground, so you don't really have to worry about it. And also they're near enough to the scale of the chicken where it's not like a major disaster. But like
they had to be rotated instead of just moved left and right. Though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, one thing I'm curious about is the clouds. So, because they're curved as well, do you just have like a bunch of set cloud models that you just have going back over? Like, what do you do with the clouds?
Alex, do you want to go there?
Yes, we have a number of cloud models.
Okay.
And we randomly spawn them as they go through, so they're different all the time. But it does pick from a set number, and then it kind of also picks a set rotation and scale. But this is another challenge of using a cylinder, is when you have something that's baked in curved, your rotation options are straight, normal, or 180 degrees. You can't go 90 because then you have a curve along the cylinder instead of around the cylinder. So, and you might see the same thing in the mud piles that are kind of like just a lip up from the grass that they're on. Those can only be rotated in two ways. Otherwise, you get very odd looking Pringle shaped mud, which doesn't quite fit. But that's how the clouds work. There's a couple of them. We also have different kind of colors and different effects for each of the worlds as well. And we do have some different models for the different worlds as well, especially if you've seen any of the lava footage.
Yeah.
They look a lot more menacing than the clouds in the Pleasant Pastures.
The lava clouds are curved, but the other ones I think are just like straight.
Are they?
Well, some of them are
They
Some
look-
of them are slightly, maybe
They look curved,
yeah,
or maybe that's just
longer
the.
ones.
They certainly look curved, but maybe that's
Yeah.
just because of the like perspective. I'm not sure.
Perspective, yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the size of them as well.
Mhm.
And one of the weird things about the clouds, and you've seen it in the videos already,
Mhm.
like you can see them when they're not above you, but they're off to your right.
Yeah, that looks that. So they're like where they're placed is based on where like the part they're above. So
Yeah.
the angle looks a little weird like that, but
Yeah, so that you get vertical clouds
yeah,
on the side. which,
Yeah.
You know, it fits the world though. When you rotate around, you'll
Yeah.
also notice the shadow kind of goes and sweeps over, not for clouds, but for other objects that are
Mhm.
big. You'll see that their shadow kind of sweeps over because the light that has the shadow is directly above the chicken all the time.
Oh,
And it's always real-time shadows.
yep.
And so
we
as
wanted
you're
the Mario
turning,
shadow.
yeah, we wanted it straight down so that you could know where you were landing.
Mhm.
But that does mean that we couldn't do stuff like baked in shadows or anything like that because the shadow perspective changes based on where you are on the cylinder
Uh-huh.
all the time. So that's one of the performance challenges we've had here is, we need real-time
Oh.
shadows to get that
Mhm.
jump
Yeah.
shadow, but at the same time, yeah, we couldn't bake any of it, which was really, but
Not to
no performance
mention-
pins there.
We also really there was a bit of a struggle with skyboxes and stuff in general because we were gonna paint on some clouds to the skybox, and when we were doing that, because we have we're kind of like looking into the skybox, and it's just like we're doing actually a sky sphere, I think, not so much a box, because we couldn't really get that to look right with the cylinder going into the horizon, I suppose. And so when we painted on these things, the clouds, you would end up with this big ring of clouds, and it just looked really awkward. And so we were like, trash that idea. We'll just make clouds that are physical that we can spawn in, and then we'll just go past you and then despawn and then spawn back here at the start. But yeah, like doing anything because of the cylinder nature of the world was it was something that we hadn't really thought of being that much of an issue, but like it definitely gave us, or me, some sleepless nights because I was like, oh my god, how am I gonna do this?
Here's
And
one
then
thing.
we saw
One thing
Sonic, and we were like, oh wow, they've done that really well. We didn't even know it existed until someone was like, hey, this is like that Sonic game. We're like, what Sonic game? We look it up, we're like, oh, one of the Sonics does this. And we're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Sonic game?
So you're saying?
I was gonna say, on the bright side, it's a cylinder. Okay, you could have made it worse and made like, what do you call a 3D oval thing? I don't know.
Ellipsoid?
Yeah.
Something?
There. Where the curve isn't consistent, that would be so much worse.
That would be painful. Yeah.
I hadn't even considered like how much trouble a cylinder would have given you, but
Yeah. Neither did we.
On our end,
Yeah.
from Unity, it's not too bad because you just give something a height and then you just rotate it, and then it rotates it in a circle. So our cylinder's length 10, so we can just give stuff a height of 10, like in the game object underneath, and then the object above that, we just rotate that, and it goes around the cylinder. So, but yeah, it does
Certainly
cause
for
some
modeling,
issues,
it's interesting. That's for
or
sure.
for distance calculations, you have to then use your distance on the cylinder and stuff.
one little thing that
gonna say
probably doesn't matter to anyone but me is, do you rotate the world around the chicken or the chicken around the world? Like when you go around the world, like when you like the cylinder.
The chicken around the world.
Okay. I was just curious. I just wanted to know.
But that is one of the other challenges with the skybox because we're rotating the chicken around the world. That means if we wanted to have the skybox be green underneath, then at some point that green would be above you, and that didn't work.
Right.
Some of the initial skyboxes we had kind of like a horizon line and different colors on both sides, And even though there were still very like cool colors,
Mhm.
we didn't go with the green because of how obtrusive it was.
Mhm.
It's still because of the lines rotating, it gave people motion sickness more often than not.
Oh,
And
that
so
makes
we thought,
sense.
hang on a minute, we need to go back to just like something real plain. And then we did, and then we showed it to someone. They said it's really boring on the sides. But
Yeah.
then we added the cloud back.
Yeah, like
I feel like
sorry.
oh sorry.
I was gonna say I don't really get motion sickness on a game like this, but when I play like a VR game and there's anything like slightly off, I'm gone in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like there was one of the demos that was there at AVCON, there was like a cycling demo, like you cycled and you had like a VR headset on, and the demo they had, it was really cool, but it had some frame rate issues, and I couldn't play it for more than 5 minutes. It really made me like really nauseated.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
We
You
actually
need that if
had
you're trying to get exercise in, you know? You want to stay on there as long as you can.
Yeah.
yeah. We actually had a few people ask us if this is going to be a VR project, and we were like, I don't know, man. Like, if people are already getting motion sick, sometimes if they, they might just, hurl if they play the game, because like, that would be like just crazy to do a VR version of an Endless Runner. I think, like, especially down a cylinder like what we've got, it'd be nutty.
I think if we could like go back, I would probably make the cylinder a bit bigger because then you'd get less motion sickness because it'd look more flat. But the problem with that is that then you'd be spawning more objects potentially, unless you made objects bigger. And then if you made the chicken bigger, it would be like it would neglect like you've done nothing. You've just scaled everything up.
I think that's part of the reason why the high speed is so confusing at the start because of how small the cylinder is. Like it's one thing to be moving side to side really quickly, but when you're rotating everything as well, like it's another way of moving that you don't really interact with that often. So at least when you first play it kind of throws you off a little bit.
Yeah, definitely, especially at the higher speeds. It's all about practice with Super Bawk Bawk Chicken. I played at the 2 above default chili level for a while. And then just the other day I thought I'm gonna try myself on the hardest. And my average score went down from like 4,500 to 600. So I was not achieving the distance there, but I was learning, and that was the main thing. And then I was able to get back up to the further distances, but also at a faster time, so I could try to get that high score more. But I'm definitely nowhere near Luke's high scores. He's gone way past the purple star.
I think the highest so far is like 19k, which is purple stars are at 12k, so it's like 7k more than that. It's pretty crazy. It's almost 20k, and I was sad because it was like 80 off, and I was like, why did I die there? Like I probably still had a Bawk up. Like what am I doing? But one thing that we can say, which was also a difficulty, so it sort of ties in with our cylinder difficulty, but it was also why it's all about practice for Bawk Bawk, is that the worlds, at least the campaign levels, are always the same when you play them. So you can find out which paths you want to take into the distance because they'll be there next time you play. At least that's how it's meant to be. Alex did some really hard work to get that working.
And we had some issues with that.
We thought like it's still fair if it's random, random for everyone, but to make it the most fair, everyone should get like the only thing that changes are the clouds. They're completely random because they don't interact with you in any way. And that's
So with the other levels, then they are procedurally generated.
Oh, they're all procedurally generated,
right?
But some of them are using a random seed that's the same every time.
Okay,
So,
that
and
makes
we
sense.
tried to make our random number generator deterministic so that we could make sure that when the obstacles are generated and when the block, because each different obstacle along the cylinder is in like a block. When you pick a block, that decision is made the same way every time. when you spawn the obstacles and the number of obstacles and the orientation of the obstacles, that's the same every time. But the clouds positions, maybe not, because we don't like that doesn't matter.
Right.
But the rest of it, like the obstacles you're interacting with, the level you see is deterministic, but it's still infinite. So you could theoretically go way further than 19k and still be generating new level that would be the same every time you got there.
Right.
But there is a hard limit based on human reaction time. Either that or the physics in Unity will give up and you'll fall through the floor. We have not got there yet, but it's gonna happen.
And the trials are the ones that are random every day.
Okay.
So between you and me, if we load the same trial, we'll have the same trial, but tomorrow will be different for both of us. But we'll still have the same.
Yeah.
And there is, like, if we do slight balance changes to some blocks, that might screw the ordering of the blocks. So we've talked about it a bit, and we might in the future release a patch that sort of protects us from that a little bit. But there's still going to be some things where if we change, like we balance an obstacle to spawn less, it might still change the block order. So.
Okay. Well, one thing I was curious about is like what sort of goes. Obviously, you have like the water patches and there's levels that have islands, and there's the lava level, which is the lava level. What sort of goes into making sure that you don't spawn elements that are literally impossible to cross?
Lots of trial and error.
We have a safety block distance, so for most levels, once you spawn a block, you'll then just spawn a safe block, which is just grass.
Right.
So you always especially on like water blocks, they'll have up to a max length. So you can't go past the bit where 2 jumps and a dash would be too long, and then it will spawn a safety block, which will be water. Sorry, which will be grass, so that you can land on it. And we do also have some preventions because there's some crazy blocks. Like at the start, we had a rotator, and we have this GIF of I think Scott playing, and it's horses that run at you, but then when they run on a rotator, they get rotated. So it looks like this horse is coming at him, and it's not going to hit him at all. But there's a rotator between him, and it's just a very small one, but it's very fast. And the horse rotates directly in front of him at the very last minute, and he just gets clipped by it. Yeah. So we're like, maybe we shouldn't have horses behind rotators. Maybe. But we did change them a bit, so you might still get them. But, there are some blocks that's just like, no, you can't. Like, you can't have another water block if it's a long one after a water sort of thing.
That makes sense.
So, yeah.
I thought someone was going to say something. Oh.
No, you're right.
Oh,
No,
okay.
it's all good.
No, that makes sense. Because like there's a lot. I play a lot of roguelikes. Like I play things like Dead Cells, things like that. Hades, great game, and I'm these are games that have done a really good job at making sure their levels are actually achievable. I've played some other games where actually Minecraft's a really good example of this, especially with some of the earlier seed generation, where things just didn't make any sense in some cases. Like that's, especially when you're dealing with something as like big as Minecraft, you're gonna have your seed generation completely fall apart in certain places. Like there are the famous seeds like Gargamel, things like that, where you have like a giant ravine way before ravines were even in the game. So I'm sure that you've had I'm not surprised there have been certainly some issues you've had to specifically design against if you're trying to do something like this.
Definitely. Well, if you join our Discord, or if anyone wants to, and scrolls up far enough in dev updates, you'll see a bunch of basically random generation fails, because that was all the rage for a couple of weeks or maybe even months initially when we were adding a whole bunch more content, because we just couldn't get numbers right, and we wouldn't get the anchors for rotations right, and we ended up with I think at one stage we had hedges that went off into the air, and we had like the little hobs that are on the side of the water for bridges. Those were just floating, and it looked really cool. But definitely wasn't the theme we were going for, so we had to try and fix them. But yeah, there's lots of examples of us just not getting it right until we got it right, really.
I was gonna say, current patch, I think, is it current live? We have an issue where we completely, in one level on the lava levels, the striking snakes. Yeah, there's just no safety blocks at all. So if you were to play that game, the demo, or not the demo, the full game, if you were to play it on that snake level, there would be just blocks shoved up back to back, and so like it is incredibly tricky to like deal with. But yeah, I mean it snuck through, so it happens.
Yeah,
Stuff
and
like
we've
this
already
still
fixed
happens.
it. We're just going to deploy later.
Yeah, we've got other issues as well. Like having very small water blocks is a no, but one of our small water blocks is reeds. So that's just, we want it small because we want a water behind it. So then you've got like this reeds before the water. But we needed to add something so that you had to have a water block behind reeds rather than a grass, because otherwise you got this tiny jump and then you just fall a fraction and you get thrown into the dirt and you're like, oh no, what the hell?
Right, that makes sense. Okay. So, well, while we're on the topic of like issues that have been happening, like for all of you, what have been the like something that you have, some issue you've occurred maybe yourself, or issue you've helped to fix that has been like a big learning experience for you, that you thought this was going to work before you initially tried it, and then it just all fell apart?
There's too many examples.
Well, you don't have to pick the worst one, just pick one of them.
Having worked on this game for like 3-ish years now, almost all of the systems have been rewritten. And at one point in time, the worlds weren't using object pooling to generate obstacles. So we ended up hitting this situation where if you're on a computer that wasn't a beast machine like what we have, it just wouldn't run. It was so laggy and so slow every time it was generating obstacles, and it would do that as you're going, so it would just be constant frame chugs, which wasn't good. So I kind of worked on that system and rewrote it, and I did it like after work and all that kind of stuff. So I was like tired, and I'd come home and I'd just like, okay, time to do some pooled object generation. Here we go. And I think since I did that, it's now been rewritten almost again, like not completely, but especially the bits that were challenging because they just didn't work. And I thought they did, and I wrote all this code and I was like, yeah, here we go. And then Luke was like, no. So he fixed it for me, which was good.
No, that's a tag team. Yeah. Alex fixes everything of mine, so it's definitely, we're all helping each other out. Scott's always got an opinion.
Yeah,
help us.
I was gonna visual look the change or something. Looks like, how's that look? And I'm like, yeah, that looks good. Oh no, I've just played a lot now and I don't like it, so we're changing it.
Literally found out just a couple of days ago that if you press escape in the load screen, it quits the game. And we're like, wait, that's on live. We gotta quickly, because that was way back from ages ago when we, like, in the prototype, we wanted to be able to quit the game somehow. So yeah. We're fixing that, I think, next patch, which will be good.
I tend to play the game much like other players don't, like, and I just spam stuff or just do something stupid, and then I'll just break the game completely, and I'll be like, "Oh, is this meant to happen?" Like,
what about that menu one, Scott?
What was that one again?
He just spammed the keyboard. He was like, "Look at this, Luke." I'm like, "Okay." So he gets to the main screen, spams the keyboard, and then all of a sudden he's got the logo Super Bawk Bawk Chicken, but it's on like level select. And we're like, "You're not meant to have the logo on level select." I was like, "Also, who just smacks the keyboard like that?"
I can definitely understand that. No, like when I play something, usually what I do when I go to AVCON is I intentionally go to people's things just to try and break it. Like, I couldn't break, like, you guys' game was simple enough that I couldn't break it, but like when something is, especially when someone has, a very expansive scope, there's usually things they miss, especially if there is like, a wall with a rock next to it and a jump button. Usually you can like jump up the wall and get out. Like when I was playing Black Mesa, like there's a bit where it's like an elevator comes down, like, what happens if I go under that elevator? Will it kill me? No. It soft locks the game because now I cannot move because I'm stuck in the elevator. So I definitely know that feeling.
Yeah, those things can be great, like, for a community to find, though. Like, sometimes I feel like, especially first-person shooters, they like the, like, kind of vibe where people would just go off to the side of the map and just keep going as far as they can, and they'll find these dead zones that weren't ever meant to be seen.
Yeah, like Halo 1,
people
where you
love
can get
it.
up on top of the map and just like snipe people from like, and no one can do anything about you.
It's great. People love that. Find those kind of hidden things, and you know, sometimes Easter eggs, sometimes not. Sometimes just cool, funky things.
Yeah,
but sorry.
With your question of like things that we thought were gonna fix and then it didn't, we could literally say like last night or the night before, there was one where we're trying to get the time slow so it doesn't clip on things too much, because we've got the feedback that when you're like near a pebble but you're not going to hit it, like why is it giving us time slow? It like distracts the people who are trying to get to the top scores because they're just clipping on it and they're like, oh, I know what the timing is, don't give me extra time. And so we're like, well, why don't we make the time slow like shrink as it's slowing you down, so the slower you are, the smaller it is, so you have to be more accurate.
Right.
But what that led to was that it would shrink and then you wouldn't get time slowed, but then it would expand and you get time slowed, then it would shrink and you wouldn't get time slowed and it would expand. So as you're going past something, you're chunking, and we're like, oh, well, we thought it was a good idea, but we got to remove that.
In particular for myself, for this question, because I am new. Well, I was at the start of this project, and it still happens. But because I'm new to making Blender objects, then be FBXs that are available for Unity to be like plugged and play kind of thing. Just getting that set up to start, like, so that it was clean from when you brought it from Blender to Unity, that was a challenge in itself for me. And it, like, still sometimes I catch myself not applying the transforms that I need to for it to then not whack out when we bring it into Unity. Sometimes it's like you export it as a FBX and you view it in the Microsoft FBX viewer, and there's like nothing wrong when then you put it in Unity and it's like, who knows what? It's like all backwards or upside down, or the chicken's like separating from everything else. And you're just like, all right. So particularly with animations, that's the big one, I think, with those kind of things, is that if you don't apply any of your scales or transforms when it comes to the animations, the bones go nutty and you just end up with just stuff that you never thought would. You're like, why is it doing that?
Big-headed vultures.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, those are fun. We had vultures that would they swoop down at you and stuff. Somewhere along the line, I might have not applied the scale or transform or something, and so they have these heads that like go shrink down from tiny little things to like balloon massively as they swoop, and it's just it's great. It looks great, but it's not intentional.
Right.
So gotta fix that.
Although I think they're a big feature in the bonus levels now.
Yeah, we've just put them in the pretty much anything that we're like, this is great, but we just put them in the bonus so that people can see the greatness.
Yeah.
So even some of the problems have inspired actual content in the game.
Yeah, for sure.
No, I think it's a fun way to approach it. Definitely, like you could just be like, hey, I want it to be like, I want it to work. But if something's fun, you might as well like. It's a game. Just have the fun in there. Maybe don't have it as like the main thing, but like, just give people something to enjoy.
Yeah, as
sure
players,
that's exactly what we're going for.
Yeah, as players of like tons of games, we've always appreciated those kind of like goofy moments in video games, and or just things that we were able to exploit, and or one of the funniest things that we used to do when we're all the way back in the Nintendo 64 days was we used to play with our dad on GoldenEye. And because we were young and we know the button controls and stuff, we would be able to crouch and hold the crouch and just move around the map crouched and just slap people's knees. And because you have a really awkward aiming system in that game, Dad was never able to crouch and or aim at us, so we'd just like float towards him on our knees, just like slapping him. And he loved it but hated it, and we loved it, and it was great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
No, those moments are so fun. Like, I think One of the earliest bugs I remember like really enjoying was Halo 1. On the you know the mission, like this thing's like the second mission where you're like on the island. You can just drive into the water and the game doesn't stop you. There's like an invisible wall like way later, but you can just drive. Like if you just jam up against it, you can just drive past it. So you just drive under the water. The game doesn't care. Like they couldn't stop you.
Oh, cool.
Like surely someone had to have tested the cars don't the cars stop underwater, but they just left it there, and it's so much fun.
Oh, I have to go back and play that because we got like the anniversary edition, but I haven't done that bug yet. So
Oh, that's awesome. So a couple of the things you guys mentioned there were related to like optimization and things like that. So you guys are aiming for a mobile release at when is that supposed to happen?
As soon as possible, really.
Okay.
But there is a deadline, and that is by the time PAX rolls around, because we will be going to PAX this year.
Awesome. So what extra requirements does being on mobile add to the way you've designed the game? Like, obviously you're trying to make it run reasonably well on a PC, but when you're dealing with a mobile device, and what sort of range of devices are you trying to aim for? Obviously, you're not going to be like, have the latest iPhone, but there's going to be like a minimum spec you're going for to be able to support.
Yeah, there is. Probably a couple of years old phone. That's kind of where we're aiming. And the reason why is because we have a couple of year-old Androids at the moment.
Yep, I do.
And we've tested it on that and it works.
$300 phone from 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we've always been considering this. Like I have, I don't know if it'll come through on the screen, but I have, I annoyed my brothers a lot by making us change the name of the game every single time so that I could have. It's not coming through.
No.
But every single one of
God.
those little icons is Super Bawk Bawk Chicken, and then I got a second page of them too. So I've got probably 50 builds of Super Bawk Bawk Chicken on my phone, scaling back to all the time before we had pooled world gen. So it's like that one does not run. But once we put pooled world gen in, it runs pretty well. So we're already kind of hitting the targets we wanted to, but there's some objects and there's some particle systems and there's some interactions in the game that really make it chug to a halt. We've also found that in older versions, we haven't tested this so much on newer versions, but in older versions of the game on mobile, memory leaks were apparent. And you could be playing for, if you were played for over an hour, things just slowed down for no good reason. So yeah, there's certainly some things we need to fix, but definitely a couple of year old Android, couple of year old iPhone is the target we're going for. And tablets, we want it to work on tablets too, because it's nice having a bigger screen, to be honest. You can see the obstacles better.
That was one thing as well, is that you've got a like way bigger resolution on a tablet, like, but often they come with slightly lower specs than your standard phone or like your newish phone. So like trying to get it to work on a tablet at the specs that it has is something that like we've bought some for showcasing at AVCON, and when we went to put it on, it was like, yeah, some of the levels are good, but some of them that have a few more like particle systems or something in there, like they really struggle on those kind of ones. So we'd really need to, just figure that one out. But yeah.
So, what is the actual like process of getting something? Obviously, it's going to be different for Google's apps, Play Store, if that's what it's called, and the Apple App Store. Like, what is the process of actually getting something onto that?
Well, we're kind of in the process of doing that, so we can tell you about halfway.
Okay, well, what you've done at least, yeah.
Yeah, so to get it on the phone for Android, it was really simple when we were able to turn our phones into dev mode, because we could plug it into the computer and straight up just play on our Android phones. Like that was cool, because I mean we could test straight away. And Unity makes it super easy to tick like, I want to build for Android, and providing you've got UI that works for Android, which was a huge thing that we got into lots of heated discussions about, but we got there. So you need the UI to actually fit and work and scale and all that kind of stuff. But as well as that, to get not too many, I think you have to use the right render pipeline for Unity and not be using too many resources. You can just get it on there. But we've currently also signed up for a Google account that will let us a Google developer account.
Yeah.
And that lets us go through a couple of phases of testing before we get to launch. Currently, we have a build up that is in a private beta test that hasn't been reviewed by Google, but we are able to download it from the Google Play Store and test on a number of different devices based on email addresses. So that's kind of cool. That's kind of the process for Google. For Apple, we actually, because we signed up to be a company, and we thought, okay, well, we're going to do a company developer account for Apple. And we've had a couple of hurdles to jump through to get to where we are today, because we needed to get a DUNS number. Yeah, do you want to?
No, you got it. Sorry.
We needed to get a DUNS number, and when we signed up as an Australian company, we got one.
Okay.
But Apple didn't recognize it. So we went to the DUNS place. It's like a company in America somewhere, and we went to the lookup to find out what our DUNS number was, and we got it, and we pasted it in the Apple form, and they said, no, that doesn't exist. However, they said, if you fill out this information, you could submit it and go get one. So we're like, sure, why not? Let's do that. So we filled in the form, and that got submitted to the DUNS people, the people who keep track of these numbers. And we got an email back from them saying, you guys already have one.
Yeah.
So we thought, okay, no worries. But it did have a little line on it that said some of the details were updated. And I thought, okay, maybe this will help us through. So we went back to Apple again, and we went to go sign up as a developer account again. But we had the same problem. So we contacted Apple support, and they said, okay, no worries, we figured it out for you. So they must have had to do something, maybe because we're an Australian company, I don't know. But they had to do something on their end to let us through. And they did, which was really quick. They did it really quickly, so that was lovely. But then we were blocked because we didn't have a @daytimedevs.com email address. We were just using Gmail so far. So we had to sign up for one of them as well. And now we're for review with Apple and pending. So we're not quite sure on the rest of the process yet.
From my understanding, you also need to like demonstrate it works on like at least this was a couple of years ago. You need to like demonstrate it works on different devices. Like you need to show screenshots of it working on like an iPad, on iPhone, things like that. But that was a while ago. The last time I looked at it, I don't know exactly what the process is now.
That stands to reason. I think at my work, other people work on apps as well, and they have to take screenshots of all the different. If they're going for tablet and phone, they take different screenshots for each so that it can appear on the store as the resolution that or like the aspect ratio you would expect on your device as well. So yeah, we're likely going to have to do that, but that's okay. We can take screenshots. We had to do that for Steam too. Yeah, and definitely there's a review process involved in both Apple and Google when you want to submit it live. So we need to make sure that it runs well, and doesn't crash immediately. There was a review process for Steam too, and they told us stuff like, "Oh, your page has too many screenshots of Wesley in the shop. You should put some more screenshots of actual gameplay and stuff like that." And that's really helpful feedback. So we just actioned it.
Let's have a look at your Steam page. Wait, Super Bawk Bawk Steam. Here we go. Let's see. So
if you want to click that download button on the demo, go right ahead.
So your gameplay trailer is the first one. Then you got the rest of them. You got the lava level here.
Yeah.
There's one.
We did change them around. We added them so that I think it's like your first 7 to 10 or something should be more gameplay focused than menu focused. But because we do have unique things in the menus, we were like, we still want to show off that there is like a character on the shop, and stuff like that. And the rascal, in fact, the equipment screen, I think, should also be there. And so things like that, a lot of players that like familiar with those things will be like, oh, okay, they have equipments and stuff, items that you can equip and stuff like that. They'll see that and they'll go, oh, okay, I know what that system is. But yeah, the first 10 need to be gameplay because that's what people are more interested in overall.
I don't think I've ever gone through 10 screenshots.
Yeah. Apparently. Yeah. I suppose you want to get a real good look. You click, spam the click button.
Well, usually if they have a good video as like the first
Yeah,
thing,
that's all
I'll
you
watch
need.
the video. That does a good enough job, at least for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess they have their process they want to go through.
Yeah.
And hey, if that's the process they want, then that's
They've probably
cool.
got stats on it that back it up to say that it's the best way to do it. But yeah.
I love these.
I think.
I love these minimum
Oh.
specs.
Oh yeah.
RX 470. Wait, how do the minimum specs actually work? Are those something you guys had to like sort of estimate, or like what's the deal there?
We just chose the computer we had that had the lowest specs and played it on that, and was like,
Well-
oh, it's playable. We'll just chuck them. It wasn't that the process. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
That's
it was.
kind of
Okay.
In terms of the Mac specs, is that the Mac specs?
I see the minimum
recommended.
here. It's the i5
Recommended.
6300, Intel graphics 520, 4 gigs RAM, Windows 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an old
Yeah.
Surface that I used to use, and we just had it lying around. We said let's chuck Bawk Bawk on there, and it worked. So we're like,
Yeah.
yep.
Huh,
The
okay.
Mac specs are a little bit different because we don't have a whole lot of Macs sitting around. We had to buy
the
one,
Mac specs, yeah.
and then the current
think,
one
didn't we use
is pretty
PJs?
decent, so we didn't want to use those specs because it probably would play on something. Well, we have two Macs. One's got like 4 gigs of RAM, and one's got 16. So we can't put the 16, but the 4 one doesn't run at that. Like, it's playable, but it's you probably wouldn't recommend it to someone
wanna
to play
update
on
it.
those specs.
You might want to
Yeah,
update the
that's
specs. It
Oh,
says
yeah?
it says recommended 8 megabytes of RAM on the Mac side.
Okay.
Yeah, we do need to update that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Also, 8 megabytes
Well, I mean,
of
like-
RAM and 1 megabyte of available storage.
Yeah.
That's a unit
MB,
problem right there.
GB, they're all the same.
I see what happened here. Someone
Yeah.
just chose the wrong thing.
Well, I mean, like we're all well, some of us, not so much. Luke as much. He's a little bit younger, but like Alex and I, we were making. We used to put computers together that had like 512 megabytes of RAM in it. Like or even like 128 and stuff. We were putting those together when we were kids.
I'm surprised they
so
didn't.
We remember those days.
I'm surprised they did. Like, no one was like, "Hey guys, that's like." I would think someone would notice
Interesting,
that in
yeah.
review process. Like 1 megabyte of recommended storage.
Not enough Mac gamers out there, clearly.
Like the fact that your recommended is lower than your minimum. Like surely that
Yeah.
throws something off.
yeah.
Like that seems like something you would have in like an automated system.
Yeah,
I
true.
guess not.
I guess not. No.
True.
Well, Steam, if you're listening, there you go.
Yeah.
There's a request.
Yeah.
One thing we haven't talked about, but like we've sort of, because you asked us what's the process of getting it on phone, and we're actually a business, and we said that, but like the real reason I think we became a business to begin with was we were going for a grant, and this also ties in with some of the struggles. Was we had to put together a document like a game design to try and go for it. Which
Okay.
actually was really good because it helped us lower the scope so that we could then have enough room to increase the scope as I felt needed. Like, oh, we need this. And I was going like, no, it's not it. It's like, oh, but it makes it a bit like the Canon. It was like, last minute, we need the Canon because it takes too long to get stuff like that. But yeah, so we were going for the grant for a grant. Sadly, we didn't get it. So that's... we're self-funded, but that's why we're hoping once we get on phone and we get some marketing, we can recover the costs that it's had. But that's why we chose the company route. Before that, we were just a partnership,
Yeah.
and before that, yeah.
A lot of people don't, or like the grant stuff, like you can't apply as a partnership because they want someone who has to pay taxes and pay tax with, or pay their employees or whatever, the company's employees. So it's like they want to make sure that you're doing the right thing, and not, like partnership doesn't, like I don't think it's as enforced as a company like a PTY Ltd or whatever,
Not as protective either, because if your partner does something, you're liable now. Whereas as a company, if your partner does something, the company's liable.
Right.
Yeah, but
And
because
probably
we're
them if
also-
they've done something wrong.
Yeah, there's rules around like if we do something wrong, then we're liable because we
Mm.
did it wrong. So we're definitely not aiming to do anything wrong.
No, no.
But yeah, it is all like there was a big learning curve there for like starting a company.
Right.
Like it didn't all have like none of us really had a big understanding of what it, like
You had
we
a
hadn't
little
had
bit.
any little bit, but not the experience of running one.
Right,
Like
no.
yeah, but yeah, it's fun. Lots
'Cause
of things to
you had
read
your own
and
company before this.
yeah, but that
It
was a
just
sole
like a
trader,
self-
so
yeah, sole
it
trader.
was
Yeah, I
completely
operate as a
different to
sole
a
trader
company.
as well, and that's
Yeah.
not. There's, it's pretty easy to do that. Like that's.
Yeah, it's a little less involved with like especially if you're not employing anyone or
Yeah,
anything like that. Yeah,
Yeah, especially
It's pretty
yeah,
simple.
especially if you're not employing anyone. That's like really easy.
yeah,
Yeah. So what if you are operating as a company, like what extra requirements do you need to worry about there?
lots of
We have to hold an annual meeting, and I'm pretty sure we have to like have 7 years worth of documentation of
you have to
our
hold on,
yeah.
you have to hold on to that stuff. But yeah, it's often I think we have to do quarterly meetings. Is that correct, or is that just one?
Someone
one-
should
you
know.
can
I
can
sorry, yeah,
choose.
We opted
Yeah.
into quarterly.
Okay.
No,
quarterly.
we
okay.
did, yes. We opted into quarterly. So that's
But
what we will be doing.
yeah,
But there's a lot more reporting requirements, and
Right.
they're a lot more
Yeah.
governed. You do have to submit various different reports to different, like to the ATO and stuff like that, on top of what you'd normally have to do. Thankfully, we have a good accountant, and he helps us out a lot.
yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't even imagine trying to operate a company by myself doing the accounting. Like that seems like a nightmare.
Yeah.
That's a job unto itself. Don't even try it.
I don't think you'd be having a lot of fun. You'd be stuck doing other stuff that you don't want to be doing.
Exactly.
And that's like what the accountant has said is to like focus on doing your game stuff and we'll sort out some of the, all that stuff that they can do. Yeah.
We do try and read up on the
We do. Yeah. Make sure we're up with the lingo, language.
So, well, shifting topic from that to something a bit more positive. What has been like when you were at AVCON? What was the general reaction you got from the game? Like, what have people said about the game while they got a chance to test it? I know you said that there was that kid that kept coming back, but besides that guy, what else?
If you're
have you seen?
listening, it was Ted, right? If you're listening, Ted, thank you very much for playing our game. You made our day.
Yeah, he sure did. Lots of people seem to enjoy it, and I think that one of the things that sort of stood out a lot is that certain groups of people were skeptical at first, like especially like people who really wanted that hardcore challenge were like, I don't usually play this kind of game. It's usually too easy, and especially when we reset it to default game speed every time, so that it was easier and more approachable. And then we said, hey, why don't you give it a go and change the speed up a bit? And then they started like a lot of people who started with that, I don't know, it's not usually my kind of thing, left with that was actually fun, which was kind of cool to hear. It was nice to hear that people like that. And a couple of other people were like, I don't usually play games, it might be a bit hard, I don't know if I can. And we thought, we'll turn the game speed down for you, the controls are on the screen, but we can also help you out. And they also went away saying they enjoyed it, or just smiling and laughing, and that was a really positive reinforcement for us, I think.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It was nice seeing people that weren't our friends and obliged to play potentially like enjoy it and actually say good things about it. Like, which that wasn't the first time. Like when we released the demo, because we were part of Steam Next Fest, we actually got a couple of people playing that were like, "Oh, I'm going to play all demos in Steam Next Fest," and it was awesome seeing just someone on YouTube just streaming our game and giving us a commentary like, "Oh, it's a chicken. I love chickens." I'm like, yes. So, I guess it is also nice seeing them in person, being able to interact with them and talk to them. We did get a lot of Switch players that just kept going back because our A button is in like Xbox controller A, whereas Switch A is, yeah. So we're gonna have to try and figure out how to do that. And also, it looked like we may want to port to Switch if after phone, because
I did notice that
but
on your website. Yeah.
yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah, we initially did apply to Switch. Sorry, to Nintendo to be on the Switch
Mhm.
to get the dev kit that they have.
Mhm.
And I think because when we applied, it was like a very early version of the game, and we didn't have it released on Steam or anything like that. So we're hoping that we can reapply at a later date,
Mhm.
hopefully soon, and get a different outcome this time. And then we can start deving on Switch. That'd be
Mhm.
great.
So
One of the guys at
sorry.
AVCON said we were like one of his standout games.
Mhm.
Like he said, there were 2 in the indie games room, and we were one of them. And we were like, yes.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
We felt like we were always busy. Like there wasn't really a gap of someone not playing. So
Mhm.
like I think we succeeded there. It was nice seeing the positive reactions. We just haven't gotten to the stage to like get those reactions to equal like downloads on the game or
Right. Did you have like any uptick in like any at all from the people at AVCON, or was it just like people had fun there and then sort of moved on?
I think a lot of people like they would finish playing the game. They were like, "This is great. I enjoyed it. Where like are you on mobile or something like that? Are you
Right,
on Switch?" And so I think a lot of people are like that played it were probably like, "Yeah, I'll get it when it comes out on phone."
Right.
Because
yeah.
we did say yes, it will be coming out on phone later on in the year, but currently it's on Steam, and so a lot of people might not like necessarily pick it up on Steam. And we did notice a few sales, in particular. We had Ted and Ted's dad thank us for letting him spend the time at AVCON just chilling with us,
That's cool.
and that was great. It was really like great overall positive feedback. But yeah, I think a lot of people are hanging out to see it on mobile.
Mm-hmm.
it's also
because
that we marketed it all. So
yeah, that
like,
too.
we're waiting because we have limited, like we don't want to spend too much on it. We're waiting till we have it everywhere, so people, when we do market it, they can just play it wherever they want to.
Right.
So we're thinking that we've got their first impression at AVCON. Once if they do see an ad in the future, they'll be like, "Oh, I remember this. This was heaps good fun." So
In terms of, oh, sorry, I was
Oh,
going
no.
to say, in terms of people knowing, it was great. It was a good exercise to show off our game, and because previously it was just friends and family that had played the game, so I think we must have had over like 200 people like come in and just play it and try it out. Like we didn't give as many cards out as that, but we definitely had people come past and give us the feedback. So we know we're on the right track with kind of what we've got.
2 of them,
And yeah, nice. There you go. You get a couple. That's great.
So that was your first time like actually like physically showing off the game then? Like
there
was
was
outside
one,
of your like friends and family?
Yeah.
there was one night before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That we went to like the Games Plus. They have get-togethers for devs in the city. So we went there and we just had it on our phones, and we split up and tried to show everyone we could at the venue. And we found out that we needed to make the tutorial a lot shorter from that because it was a lot longer, and people were like, "I just want to play." So that helped us a lot. So that AVCON, we had a tutorial that actually kind of worked.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was
We
fairly
gutted
short.
it.
But also, it's different showing gamers compared to developers.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the tutorial you guys had there was, I don't even remember the tutorial. Like that's how quick it sort of went by. Like it taught you everything you need to know, which isn't like a ton, but it got the point across. Like what was your original tutorial like then? If it was too long,
I think it just was like it had, instead of doing things twice, you had to do things 3 times. Everything was like spread out longer, whereas now it's all compact, and you didn't time slow as much, sort of thing. So yeah, it was just
What, like maybe 3 times as long or something. So it was just thinking about thinking about like people that like when they first download your game, they'll play it for like, I don't know, a couple minutes, and then they'll just give up on it if they don't like it. And we didn't want to lose that person or that player during that experience, because some people they're the attention spans, they just want to get into the game and get going,
Yep.
And that's fine.
not even
That's
that.
like that's the
Sometimes you
way
don't have
it
time.
is. Sometimes, yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's just you don't have time.
Mhm.
But yeah, we wanted to make sure that it was as painless for that kind of player as possible, but also still had all the stuff we need to for everyone else.
Yeah, I certainly showed a lot of people at like work gatherings and so other social gatherings I went to the old tutorial, and it was a lot easier to fail. I know that you can still fail in the existing one, but when people failed the tutorial, they really got disheartened,
Right.
and you'd have to really coach them through trying again until they got it. And because it was about a minute and a half experience, it was like if you got 30 seconds in and you died, you had to do that 30 seconds again. And yeah, people really weren't too fond of that.
Right.
But then as well as that, after the tutorial, you would just stay in a world that was tutorial level blocks. And it would just be the tutorial land. But at some point in time, we decided, what if it just faded into the first level? So that the tutorial level almost just
Okay.
disappeared once you finished it, and you were already playing the first level. And that's kind of where it was at in AVCON, and that really helped people just continue through the levels
I
because
guess
they were
that's
like,
probably why I
next,
didn't
next,
notice
next.
it then.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's
exactly.
that's actually a really good idea. Yeah, I did. No, I think that's a really cool way to handle it. Like, I don't even know what to say about that. I think it's just a good idea. You guys worked it out clearly.
Yeah,
We had help.
was-
We had
yeah.
people. That brings up one of the biggest issues I think we had was early on before the tutorial. Even now, we still have this issue. Is holding jump is not like you definitely do it in Mario to jump higher,
Sure.
but it's definitely not natural for a lot of players. They just tap it. They tap it and then they die to the water. And so we
Right.
had to be like, how do we get players to hold that bad boy button so they actually fly in the air? Because everyone was tapping it and dying, and we were like, no. Because is there any other games that sort of like? I mean, there would be, but it's just not. It just didn't seem intuitive, I guess, because they were thinking we're more like Flappy Bird or something else. So.
Yeah, it's considering that it's sort of aimed at like it's a very mobile style game where you do tend to just tap, or a lot of the like Infinite Runner games are just tap once and then, as opposed to a more traditional platformer like, I don't know, Celeste, Jack and Daxter, things like that, where you do like there is a clear difference between tapping and holding. I can understand, especially when you're saying that a lot of people that sort of were asking about mobile, clearly it had more of a sort of mobile kind of audience to it. Yeah, that I think that makes sense why it was a problem then.
Yeah, also a lot of the time we were demoing it on a mobile to people because it's what we had with us.
Right, okay,
So
that
they
also
were
makes sense.
playing it like a mobile game. And that's fine. But it is a little bit more of a platformer style experience, even though it is an Infinite Runner.
And
Without the
don't let us
platforms.
shoebox it into mobile, because like the way I play it on Steam, I've got a beast of a computer. Of course I'm going to play it on that, and the high scores go across or will. So you'll be able to see which one you're on potentially. But yeah, I definitely would play it on my PC. So I'm hoping there will be other speedrunners that can put their name up there, so it's not just Big B at the top of every level, and I have a reason to replay them. So if you feel like you're a great gamer, get on it, people. Because
we did. Yeah, we did have quite a few people give us a comment of like, because they learned about like that the seeds are all the same for but it was procedurally generated, but everyone's experiencing the same thing. Some people were saying, "Oh, this would be great for speedrunning communities," and I was like, I guess I wasn't looking, like I didn't realize that, but like I was like, yeah, because people would just like. They will learn that route, and they will learn every little block that could spawn, and be like, yeah, I know I got to be left on this side, or be right on this side, just to maximize their distance.
Well,
and just because you can unlock stuff and you can go to the next level and keep going. Sorry.
Sort of on that note, no, sorry, Discord's Yeah.
Yeah. No.
On that note, like you could add. I don't know if you have the option for this, but you could add the ability to set the seed. So if you want to like specifically use this seed, or like especially with those daily challenges, if you wanted to sort of practice that in like a outside of that, I think that would be at least something to mess around with.
It's funny that you say that. That was a feature on our list, and I think it's somewhere on our list, but it did get cut from scope when we were making that business plan as to what goes into the time we have
Okay.
versus like especially before packs. Like it's not going to make it in before packs.
Sure.
But it's a good idea. We had that idea as well, and it would be really nice to have like a custom play mode where not only can you set the seed, but also you can pick which obstacles you like to play with. But yeah, it's like a lot of work, and we thought we'll keep it on the back burner as a maybe potential future update.
Sure. That makes sense. Like, obviously, there are things you're going to want to do in the future that
Yeah.
you just either can't justify now, or in some cases, I'm sure, can't work out how to do now.
Yeah, trying to do anything that like completely changes the way the game plays can be challenging. Like, or like just adding something that's like a new feature that then just butts up against all of the other
Right.
current features that like, you know, so we really have to be careful with them and
Like,
yeah, how they work. Yeah.
You know, a mythic that unrolls the cylinder, for example.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
But then
Well,
you got to
we
worry
have
about
talked
how you deal
about-
with the models for that, because it will
Yeah,
be
we
designed
have-
around a curve.
It'd be interesting. We've mentioned ones like top down, like it kind of like flattens it into like a, you know, pancake type thing,
yeah.
and you experience it top down. That'd be interesting, but that'd be a bit of a struggle to
Or one
set
that
up.
makes you really, really tiny and then everything's huge.
Also, you
then
like
that has
you,
its own
you sort of
problems.
zoom the camera in as well, or
Yeah.
yeah.
But then it would
Just
just be like bland. It would just look like
microscopic.
grass, mostly.
It'd be big gaps between things. That's for sure.
So
But
for
yeah.
that list of things you guys want to do, like what sort of things are outside of scope for now, but you still are interested in adding at some point?
Let's just open up the note.
Yeah.
We have a big old checklist of all of them.
Definitely, there's areas like we have some coming up. Like we have ideas for a beach and a Halloween area and seasonal type content. But we're definitely going to do those. Like, Halloween. But we do have other ones that we've thought of, like space and stuff. But like, we just would just, you know, it's definitely on the horizon of like maybe one day. It depends on, you know, how much time and you know effort we can afford to put into this beyond.
I think we're also looking at our next potential game as well, like because we want to have more than just one under our belt if we can. So like we want to spend some time not just on Bawk Bawk, although we will dedicate the time to make sure we have bug fixes and little content like patches so that it does keep up to date and have something for you. But I guess one thing that some people have asked for is like multiplayer, if you could both be on the cylinder, and we actually have done some multiplayer games, so it's like it's possible, but we're like probably not for Bawk Bawk. We're thinking maybe Bawk Bawk together sort of thing, maybe if Bawk Bawk does well. Otherwise, because I mean that would be fun, but
That would be rewriting the whole thing. Right?
That would be chaos with I can, especially with some of the items you guys have in there, that could turn into pure chaos, and I'm sure would be an optimization nightmare.
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
100%.
So with so we're gonna say something?
Oh, I was gonna say one of the other features that we're thinking of adding, but it might be after we've hit the PAX deadlines. That is items being able to level up the more you play with them and the more stars you collect with them.
Okay.
So at the moment, items always have the default look and the same color for everyone. But we thought people like to customize, and if you know the default hat's green, somebody might want it blue or purple or orange or whatever. So we thought, why not add like variants of the items that you can only unlock by playing with that item,
Right.
and then it also gives you another sort of egg sink. Because one of the things about having currency that's easy to get, so that you can buy all the items, is that once you bought all the items, what do you do with that?
Right.
The
You buy
currency.
cannon tickets.
You buy cannon tickets, and that's currently in the game, which is why this is a out of scope feature for now. Is that we could have it so that you pay eggs to change the color as well of your items once you've also played with them and earned the stars to unlock the color groups. So that was another idea, and I think some people that we kind of floated that idea around with, they were pretty keen for it, but it represents a significant amount of work for us, so that's why it's like maybe later.
It'd be like a whole new menu.
A whole new menu. Yeah, it would be. And I'm sure that would be me doing that. I'm the menu guy. I work on websites for work, so it's like I know UI. It's a thing.
So you mentioned the idea of a future game. Do you guys have any ideas in mind right now? Would you want to make something sort of akin to Bawk Bawk or something entirely different?
We have many, but we kind of discussed this. We were like, what would be our next one? And a while ago, I made a prototype of a roguelike card game, and pretty much the in thing at the moment. There's lots of people that have been making them. Now the difference with this one is that it's co-op. So
Okay.
have you ever played the game Inscription? If you haven't,
No.
it is an awesome game, and you should put it on your list because I think all three of us have played it, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
100%.
Basically,
Oh, it's 40% off right now.
Yeah, well, you
Deal.
just need it on the side. That's it. It's kind of like a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh, which we used to play a little bit. But
Oh, I know this one. Okay, no, I do know this one. I've just not played it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Would
But
recommend.
we're kind of going into like a co-op version of that.
Okay.
We haven't titled it or anything, but we've played a couple of rounds of it and we enjoyed
Yeah,
it.
it's fun.
Definitely.
But that's still probably a long way.
Yeah.
Like Bawk
So
Bawk comes first because, for now.
that's something that's more like a game that we chose Bawk Bawk because initially because it is something that we could, or we had a prototype for it. We had a bunch of prototypes, but Super Bawk Bawk Chicken got the choice because in relative scale of scope, Super Bawk Bawk Chicken had that smaller scope. And with one of these kind of games, it is more so the game that all three of us would really get around and enjoy. And not saying that we don't enjoy Super Bawk Chicken, we really do. I'm just saying it's more in line with the kind of games that we would play on Steam.
Right.
So it'd be nice to do a game that's more in style of what we would play as gamers and work on something that's
Yeah,
little
don't
bit
let
more
us
in line.
fool you. We do have I think I've got 30 or 40 hours on Super Bawk Bawk Chicken.
Yeah, we definitely play that
we
a
love
lot.
it.
We do,
But,
yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. We play a bunch of different genres. It'd be great to have some sort of first person experience, either shooter or we love puzzles, so escape room type style game would be cool to have. But yeah, we've talked about a whole bunch of different ones, but I think Deck is something that's the card co-op game, which is called Deck, is something that we're
Working title.
It has a deck in it.
Yeah.
We're not sure where we're going, but at the moment that would just for more background is that the cards are like animals and they each have their effect.
Okay.
And basically you can put one card's effect on another, so then you can have up to 3 effects that synergize with each other, sort of like the items in Bawk Bawk, the RPG elements of.
Okay, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I've not
So you
played
might
that many roguelike card games. The only one I've really gotten played a bunch of was Slay the Spire.
Oh yeah. That's a big one.
Mm.
There's another Australian one that I really like called Ring of Pain.
Ring of Pain.
And that was funded by Victorian government. And I played it a lot, but I think my favorite one is Inscription.
I don't think I've seen
That's got
this.
a like a really deep story that you can kind of unravel as well.
Mhm.
What do they call those? Like the backrooms type stuff with all the lore,
yep.
and it's like you can really delve deep into that rabbit hole,
Mhm.
and so that one is unique in that sense. I haven't seen one similar to that, but
Mhm.
yeah, that was definitely really cool to see.
Mm-hmm. Well, do I have anything else I really want to talk about for this? I think we hit on most of the main topics. Actually, one thing I did want to ask you about, like, so there is this sort of rise of handheld PC gaming with the release of the Steam Deck, which is still not being sold in Australia. Valve, somebody, I know some people from Valve watch this channel. Somebody release it here. What do you guys think about this sort of new way of playing PC games?
I think it's great. Sorry.
Yeah, definitely. Personally, I work in front of a desk, in front of my computer every day, all the time. It's what I like. I love doing it, right? But sometimes I just need to get away from this desk and go to a comfy chair and look at a screen that's somewhere else. And I have a Switch for exactly that reason. And I've looked up the Steam Deck multiple times to try and buy it for exactly that reason. It's just nice getting away from this scenario and being in a different room, maybe next to my partner. Like it's just a different way of gaming that I think is, especially if I could play my PC games on my Steam library, it just unlocks gaming for me. It's great. I'd love it.
Walkbook would be heaps good on Steam Deck too.
Oh, it would, yeah. I think we've had someone that I know play it on the Asus version of that. I forgot what it's called.
I know what you're talking about. The Asus.
Yeah, the handheld version of that. And they said it ran fine, so it should work fine on the Steam Deck.
ROG
but we
Ally,
haven't tested
that's
it.
Yeah.
Yes, that's why. Yes. But if anyone does have a Steam Deck and wants to try it out, give it a go and let us know how it goes.
Yeah.
Have you had anyone like attempt to play the game through Proton, like on Linux on the Steam Deck or anything like that? Or just it's just been, you haven't had anyone try it out yet, or
not that
you're
we're aware of.
Okay.
No.
Well,
Someone may have tried it, but they didn't tell us.
Most games now work just fine, so it should be not an issue. But occasionally you'll run into things like I pretty much play all my games on Linux at this point. The only things that are really an issue are the basically malware that Riot makes for Valorant and League.
Oh, yeah.
The rootkit level DR anti-cheat systems.
Yep.
And it's pretty much anti-cheat stuff that's an issue at this point. Most other games play perfectly fine. And usually the only things that really cause issues at this point are cutscenes in weirdly encoded formats that older games used to use. Like Devil May Cry 1, 2, and 3. They use a weird cutscene format, like a video format. So whenever you try to play the game, it just skips the cutscenes.
Oh, okay. That's...
Modern games don't do that. Modern games are in sensible codecs. But there are some weird older codecs used in the early 2000s.
Is there something you can add to your system to like play those games and include the cutscenes? Or?
For that one, no. But there are other games. So the main version of Proton that Valve ships, there's going to be issues with shipping certain features because of licenses with certain software. But if there are issues, people will use a community version of it called Proton GE, which includes some of that extra stuff. That usually ends up dealing with a lot of problems. In that particular game, it doesn't though, it's fine. As I played the game, I just had a video open on YouTube looking at the cutscenes, so it worked.
Enough.
Have you tried playing Super Bawk Bawk Chicken on Linux?
I haven't just yet. I was meaning to before we did this, but I just hadn't had any time to do so.
That's fair.
I'll
fair.
probably check it out after this. If it works fine, I'll let you
Yeah,
know.
well, please let us know how it goes.
Yeah, if
Like, if
it
there's
is-
anything issues-wise, yeah,
We
bring them up.
definitely need to hear it.
Yeah, same with like anyone who's played Bawk Bawk in general, like,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe listening or whatever. Any sort of feedback that you have, you're welcome to chuck in the Discord or send wherever we have the ability to see it.
Mhm.
Yeah, like our Steam discussions.
Or our
Yeah.
socials. Yep.
Socials, yeah. Feel free to tell us and let us know what doesn't work or what does work for your PC
Mhm.
and or rig. Yeah.
Especially if you're, using. I think it's important with like those lower end systems. Like,
Yeah.
like obviously, I've run a 6700 XT and a 3600X, which is by no means like a top end system. But a game like Bawk Bawk, it'll play just fine. But if
Yeah,
you're on
especially if
like a
8 megabytes
sorry,
on 8 megabytes.
no. 32 megabytes. 32 megabytes of memory.
Sorry.
It's all good. But like on those lower end systems where it could actually be an issue, and that's like especially like really important.
Yeah,
for
we've
sure.
got I can't remember what brand it is, but we've got this tiny little computer that kind of fits into a box about this big, and it runs Windows, and so that one we're planning to test on that in the near future as well as part of this performance optimization for mobile, as well as mobiles. I mean, if we can get it running on older mobiles and in the future potentially the Switch, it's gonna work everywhere.
Yeah, we have like I think I was playing earlier versions of Bawk Bawk, not the current one, but earlier versions of Bawk Bawk on a Pixel 2, and it was playing reasonably well, like playable, I would say. Certainly towards the end of like
graphics.
really fast speeds, it might have been a bit struggly, but my battery was getting a bit warm. But it was playing, and I was like, "Wow, that's old now."
When did Pixel 2 come out?
Pixel 2,
2017.
Was that 5? Yeah, no, 6.
6.
We're 2023 now.
Yeah,
Holy.
yes.
So 6 years, that's pretty good. Most people don't hold onto their phones that long. Not really anymore. It's like maybe 2-3 years. So
you reckon? Do you reckon there will be people?
Not
that
everyone.
hold on
I'm
to
just
them longer
saying
now because
people
they're, like,
often upgrade.
Well, if you're on a phone plan, a lot of people just automatically upgrade every year or whatever their plan is.
Yeah.
Phone plans are a scam. I've said this before as well.
100%.
I buy them outright for sure.
Yeah.
I buy secondhand ones because then I get them cheaper.
Yep.
Yeah.
See, the
long as it
nice thing about
calls.
buying a phone every like 3 or 4 years, you get a really big upgrade. Like if you're buying a phone every year, like it's gonna like And what's the difference between an iPhone? What is the current iPhone? I don't know. What is the current difference between iPhone the current year and iPhone current year +1? Not much,
true.
really.
Yeah.
But if you wait like 4 years, hey, you might lose a bunch of features because it's an iPhone. But you're probably going to get more performant device as well.
we just like I was watching something and I was like, oh, if you have like a new Android, you can like tap and hold someone's picture and you cut them out. And I was like, that's amazing. But I didn't know because like I was like I think up until like 7 or something months ago, I was using the Pixel 2 and that was my day-to-day phone, and I was like, yeah, it's fine. But like, it's amazing when you go 4 or 5 years. Yeah, it's pretty big. That's great.
So I guess it's pretty much time to end off the show. We're almost coming up on 2 hours now.
Goodness.
So I guess let people know where they can find everything about the game, where they can buy it, all that stuff.
Well, the central location would be superbawkbawkchicken.com. It has a nice big video at the top, and then if you scroll down a little bit, it's got all the places you can get it and all the socials that you can follow us on. But if it's a kind of a standout name, Bawk Bawk, Super Bawk Bawk Chicken. So if you Google it, you'll also come up with. You have to use the full Super Bawk Bawk Chicken because there are other food companies in America called Bawk Bawk Chicken.
Right, that makes sense.
But pretty much we're on Discord, Facebook, Twitter or X or whatever, and Mastodon at the moment. I think we're
awesome.
gonna get an Instagram at some point. But yeah, like we're mostly on Discord though. That's where you can like talk to us and give us like feedback and information or whatever like that, and
Mhm.
suggestions and stuff. But yeah, that's the main places.
And the game is on Steam, and it will be coming to Android, iOS, and hopefully Switch.
And you will be at PAX.
And we
And
will
And
be
we'll
at
be at
PAX,
PAX.
Mm-hmm.
which would be very exciting.
In our chicken shirts, our Super Bawk Bawk shirts.
You're the
it
only
will
one who
be
showed
nice
up with
and
a shirt
blue.
on.
Yeah, I'm gonna represent the business. Okay. Get his name out.
We'll make sure
Yeah.
we're wearing it at PAX.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, you know, cheers for having us on.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like,
very much.
you
very
know,
much.
Great.
we're very appreciative. First person to kind of like reach out and like get us, you know, on something. So that was cool.
But
Well,
also, it's
very
just been such a great chat because you're like the vibe has been real chill. I really liked it. So thank you very much for putting us into a comfortable position and like letting us talk to you.
no worries. Well, I'm happy you guys reached out because with Twitter breaking DMs and I had to like do all that. Honestly, I don't want to pay for Twitter Blue, but I kind of have to if I want to be able to DM people. It's so annoying to not be able to because they also changed it so the default behavior is only your followers can DM you unless they're Twitter Blue. So you gotta like message people to like follow you or message you first. It's so annoying. I hate this so much. Can everyone just use Mastodon, please? This is the nice thing about bringing like people in the Linux space on because everyone on Linux has a Mastodon account. It's great, but I don't want to give them Twitter money, but I might have to. Yeah.
Until it goes under or whatever.
Do you guys have any other things to mention, or is that everything?
I think that's it.
Okay, awesome.
I don't know.
I'll do my outro then. If you guys want to watch my gaming stuff, I do gaming on Brodion Games. Right now, I should be playing Portal 2 co-op with Rogue Ren and going through Final Fantasy 16. Check that out on Twitch, YouTube, also on Kick if you want to be there. It just happened. Like, I restream. It's everywhere. If you want to go check out the main channel, that is Brody Robertson. I do Linux videos there 6-ish days a week. And if you're watching the video version of this, you can find the audio version anywhere you can find audio podcasts. There is an RSS feed. Stick in your favorite app and you're good to go. If you want to see the video version, it is available on YouTube at Tech Over Tea. And all of my socials for this account, Tech Over Tea, main channel, Brody Robertson, or I think it's Brody on Linux. It's something like that. It'll be in the description. Check it out. I'll give you guys the final word. What do you want to say?
Enjoy
Thank
Super
you.
Bawk Bawk Chicken.
Yeah.
Hooah, hooah, hooah.
Yeah.
See you guys later.